What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Triple H turning Raw around, who's already making major moves in creative, top talent worried about losing their spot, Tony Khan concerned about Triple H, more info on AEW's video game, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our non-wrestling channel, Incredible. Our first story looks at Triple H turning Raw around. The WWE Universe has spoken as the first August Raw wrecked the ratings, pulling in huge numbers for what is to believe the first Raw overseen entirely by Triple H. Showbuzz Daily reports that Raw drew excellent numbers both in the numbers of viewers and that ever-important 18 to 49 demographic. WrestleNomics' Brandon Thurston tweeted about Raw's ratings bonanza, saying, "This post-SummerSlam episode and the first Raw since Paul Levesque took over creative is the highest total viewership since March 16th, 2020, the first Raw without an audience due to COVID-19. The 18 to 49 was the highest since the post-WrestleMania Raw in April." Ringside News compared this week's ratings with the last few weeks, saying, "The August 1st episode of WWE Raw brought in an overnight average of 2.23 million viewers, with a 0.61 in the 18 to 49 demo. The July 25th episode of Raw brought in an overnight average of 1,901,000 viewers, with a 0.50 in the 18 to 49 demo. This was Triple H's first night as head of WWE Creative, but it was still mostly a Vince McMahon show. While it's likely that fans tuned in after a strong SummerSlam, there's no denying these are some of the best numbers Raw has seen in a long time." Indeed, Meltzer noted on the Wrestling Observer that a combination of a number of factors led to Raw last night doing its highest viewership numbers since the start of the pandemic, averaging 2,230,000 viewers and drawing in a 0.61 rating in the 18 to 49. There's currently a tremendous amount of goodwill for Triple H, something that we've noted here on our website and in our videos. How long this goodwill will last depends on whether Triple H can continue booking the WWE this strongly. As Vince McMahon showed over the last decade, anyone can book a show well for 1 or 2 weeks. The key is doing so weekly and creating a logical world with continuity that doesn't erase previous storylines without making sense. Another challenge will be how Triple H deals with the fall programming as new episodes of favourite series return, including Monday Night Football. Although the WWE has never been able to compete well against Monday Night Football, Triple H may be able to build Raw up strongly enough that it won't lose a sizable share of its audience when football resumes. Next up, Triple H already making major moves in creative. Triple H is reportedly already making major moves in creative, according to a recent article from PW Insider's Mike Johnson. One major change that has happened over the last several weeks in WWE is the loosening up of freedom for the talents when they speak on the mic, allowing them to improvise more. We're told that a big part of what made the Sheamus vs Drew McIntyre match so great on SmackDown last week is at least a sizable portion of the match was called in the ring versus every single spot laid out to them ahead of times. Wrestling fans and wrestlers alike have lamented about the WWE's heavily scripted promos and the belief they stifle creativity. It sounds like Triple H is giving wrestlers more autonomy, which could lead to both some exciting promos and a few duds if someone isn't quite ready for prime time. Next up, top talent worried about losing spots. Triple H is taking control of WWE Creative and some big changes have already been made, as seen by SummerSlam and the first August Raw. However, how do the WWE superstars feel about the change? As you might expect, some are excited while others are concerned about where they stand in the new regime. Dave Meltzer discussed the new hierarchy during a recent Wrestling Observer radio, saying, "I've heard that from some talent and generally they are positive. There are definitely people who are worried that they're going to lose their spots, and there will be some people who will, because you're going to have different visions of who the top people are. Not everyone can be a top person. While not everyone can be a main eventer, we would like to point out that the WWE can have more than 1 or 2 main eventers. During the Attitude Era, superstars such as Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and The Undertaker were megastars, while the promotion also featured main eventers like Triple H, Mick Foley, and The Big Show. The WWE would do well to try and create more than one megastar and build its main event roster back up rather than demolishing it as it's done with feeding various talents to Roman Reigns." Wrestling News' Andrew Ravens commented on one potential example. Omos had been pushed heavily by Vince due to his size, but he wasn't used on Monday's Raw, but rather worked a main event match before Raw last night against Ezekiel. While there may be less room for stars like Omos, we hope that Triple H isn't afraid to utilize everyone on the roster, especially if he wants to avoid endless rematches such as were booked during Vince McMahon's tenure controlling creative. Next up, Tony Khan concerned about Triple H taking over. With Triple H implementing so many changes and recruiting stars that were recently released, how does AEW President Tony Khan feel about the changing environment? I think that's always been a concern, but now probably more so than ever. I imagine great wrestlers are going to be in demand. And again, I think this is probably going to be good for the wrestling fans because that's one of the most exciting things about pro wrestling, free agency. It's one of those things that was really missing from the sport for almost 2 decades before AEW came in, because there was not a legitimate competitor in the free agent market, and now there is. I think it's going to be some exciting times ahead, hopefully for many years to come. With Triple H willing to sign free agents, including recently released wrestlers, there could be plenty of surprise appearances in the AEW and the WWE. Next up, WWE tryouts was a train wreck. The WWE recently held its NIL Next in Line tryouts, and according to a report from Brian Alvarez on the Wrestling Observer Live, the tryouts were more like a train wreck. The word is, this is the last time it's going to happen. They're not getting rid of the NIL program, but the idea of the NIL program, the point of this is that there were a lot of injuries at this set of tryouts. Concussions, there were a lot of people who got hurt. It was the blind leading the blind. It looks like the days of all college athletes trying to get deals with no indie wrestlers is over. The NIL program is a fairly recent concept by the WWE that looks to recruit talent from amateur sports such as college football, basketball and others. Ringside News described it, WWE instituted their collegiate NIL program Next in Line with an eye on finding young athletic talent and good looks that they can mold into superstars. Triple H had said that it's a perfect opportunity for those who aren't able to continue their professional careers in other sports. On paper, the idea seems great, as professional wrestling has historically recruited athletes from both amateur and professional sports. But for whatever reason, these tryouts were a bust, as Alvarez added, "I had a lot of injuries, and a lot of them, quite frankly, sucked. I don't want to put a lot of words into people's mouth, but the last I heard was that it was a disaster." That sounds like the NIL could stand for nil talent, as well as next in line for the ambulance. And finally, more info on AEW's upcoming video game. And last but not least, gamers are finally getting more details on AEW's long-awaited wrestling simulator, AEW Fight Forever. Well, we say simulator, but it looks more like an arcade. The game's release date remains unknown, but AEW recently released a statement about the game's features. Talent roster combines biggest legends to enter the ring plus brand new high-flying AEW stars. Single, tag team, 3-way, 4-way, ladder, casino battle royal, falls count anywhere, unsanctioned lights out, exploding barbed wire death, and online co-op multiplayer matches. Online co-op multiplayer. Tag matches feature a sequence of team maneuvers performed with simple commands. The game will be available on PS4, PS5, Xbox Series, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch and PC. At one point, fans thought the game would be released on 31st December, but the date was pulled. But a teaser video had been released, but fans are still waiting for any significant footage of gameplay. Ringside News noted, according to the game's website, AEW Fight Forever will have an arcade feel to it. A new career mode will highlight what life is like on the road as an AEW star. The game will feature several match types, including the infamous exploding barbed wire death match. That kinda looks cool, but what I'm not a fan of is those mini-games. They look a bit Wii Party-esque, and yeah, we get it, some people will like it and it's just a bit of fun. But this is their first entry into the video game series. Why not concentrate on the core aspects before they add all that fun, which they can do later on in DLC packs? What do you guys think of the game? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.